we had no, even though in a previous life, both of us were in food and beverage a long time ago, before kids. So I went out and sought the advice that I knew I didn't know. So I got a SCORE mentor, which is a free service, and a guy who had run a restaurant and said, how do you do this? What do my numbers need to look like? Before we open, what should we do? Always be asking questions. Always find somebody that knows something you don't, and just always sit at their feet and say, what mistake did you make?
The Workplace Therapist Show is brought to you by The Worksmiths, a leadership development firm specializing in executive coaching, team retreats, and leadership education. Contact The Worksmiths for all of your leadership development needs. This is the Workplace Therapist Show, and of course, I'm your host, Brandon Smith. And for today's show, we're sticking on our theme of leadership lessons, and we're going to talk about some of the lessons that leaders learn as they build a business from scratch. And so to join us on this journey, I've got a good friend of mine and serial entrepreneur, Howard Flint. Howard, how are you?
I'm fine. Thanks, Brandon.
So we were talking about titles before, and you said, frankly, you're not really big into titles, as a lot of entrepreneurs would say.
Right.
But if we had to put titles on what you've done and what you've built,
right.
You're CEO of Ghost Partner, and we'll talk a little about Ghost Partner, and then you're co-founder of I Can Eat a Cake, which is a bakery.
Correct.
And so we've got some delicious goodies here on our show today.
Yes, we do.
Which we will be eating
yes.
on air.
Right.
Yes, which is excellent. And so what's really interesting about your journey is you've started two very different kinds of businesses. I mean,
yes.
Ghost Partner would serve more companies.
Yep.
More of a B2B business, more services.
Right.
Right. And then we've got I Can Eat a Cake, which you've been a part of kind of starting up with your wife, Kenita.
Correct.
And that's a bakery. So we've got product serving just regular customers like you and I.
With the brick and mortar.
Brick and mortar. So virtual brick and mortar, so very different. So maybe a good starting place before we kind of jump into the I Can Eat a Cake story. I really want to get into the goodies, frankly.
Absolutely.
Before we get into the story, maybe just kind of for the listeners that maybe didn't hear your first show, because you've been on my show before.
Yep.
It's been some time,
That's
but
right.
You've been on before. So maybe kind of just share a little bit about your journey with Ghost Partner, kind of what got you starting a business and a little bit about that business, and then we can pivot into I Can Eat a Cake.
Into food.
And pivot into food.
Right. So people buy things after they read the words that make them want to buy things. And so what Ghost Partner does is we write words. And so companies generally are really bad at writing their own words. So that could be content for their website, their social media, their blogs, their email marketing. So that's what we do. We have a team of people, and we get in and strategize and make sure that their message is really clear, and then write the words.
Yeah, that's super simple, but very hard to do.
It's very hard to do. No, that's why we have an entire. Every time someone says, "Oh, you do that," we hate doing that, and I say, "Yes, that's why we have a whole business of doing that."
Put the right words and not too many words.
Correct.
I mean, I've always attributed this to Mark Twain, but no one really knows who said it. But it's one of my all-time favorite quotes. I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have enough time.
That's right.
Which is such a great statement. It really takes thought to think about right words, right use of words.
Right. And so when it comes to writing, because nobody's got time, and now with social media, you've got to pack a lot of information into maybe a couple of sentences that either has everything you want to say, or it's enough to keep your attention for a few more seconds to go to the next page. Right? In the internet world, if I can keep you for a second, and then another second, then I'm engaging you. And that's hard to do because there's a lot of competition out there. And writing well is a thing that hopefully is never replaced by robots. And so they always need human beings to do that.
Yeah.
We're human beings.
You are.
You are.
I think. I'm not exactly sure.
That's right.
You could just be a really good robot in disguise.
I am a really good robot in disguise, yes. I also think it's like weird that we don't wear pants while doing this. Is that normal?
No.
Okay.
No.
Am I the only one?
There's medication for that, Howard.
There is. It is drafting. Is there a door open? Something.
So For Ghost Partner,
Yes.
your business, your company serves other businesses.
Correct.
So they hire you to kind of primarily focus on their content.
Correct.
Social media and marketing, all those other kind of elements. What got you started in that?
This is my second company. I had a company that I sold in 2006 that was called Buzz Publishing, and we did printed newsletters for software users. And from that, we realized that there was a lot of companies asking us for versions of what we were printing. And as email was coming along and it was going to be digital, we just saw this thing where there was going to be companies that needed words. And, I wish I could say I saw this coming, but, Facebook was coming up after that. And people were going to need a lot of stuff for social media, and websites were going to go from being brochures to being dynamic things. And so after I sold Buzz, I kept the parts I wanted, which were the digital content, the good writers that I'd met over the years, and just started working with companies that want to do email marketing, and what is this social media thing, and what do I do with it, and why is no one finding my website, and those sort of things.
So when you think about your journey with Ghost Partner,
Yep.
what were some of the big learnings you've had along the way?
I think that how to present this is hard, because someone will say, oh, we've got a college kid we hired that's going to write our content for us. Or my wife comes in on the weekends and she'll write the content for us. And you certainly don't want to insult anybody, but you want to make sure that content's got to be good. It's not just somebody who can string words together. It has to, it has to be good content. It has to be concise. And in this day and age, we might have to make sure all your keywords are being used, or we're doing some research on who's searching what on Google. And so we want to write content towards those searches so that you're getting pulled up. So there's more work than just writing words and spell checking and making sure you're using the Oxford comma. There's a lot more work that goes into it.
Yeah, so being able to kind of explain that and get people to see that.
Correct.
Has been kind of a challenge, or a
Right.
learning. How do I do that?
Correct.
Was given that your customers, in this case for Ghost Partner, or
Yep.
businesses, how was it? How easy or difficult was it to find customers?
It comes and goes. We will hit on a bunch that get it, and you've got to find somebody that values content and also has the budget to afford somebody. Again, if they're used to, well, I just write all that stuff, or I've got an intern that writes that stuff, they may not value it. And so you've got to find the right size company that can do both those things. And so that's always a challenge in talking to people and getting through that learning curve with them.
So for folks listening right now that think to themselves, I actually have a dream of one day starting my own professional services firm, which is what we could call
Sure.
this, right? What piece of advice would you have for them? So right now they're working a 9-to-5 job. Well, nobody really works a 9-to-5 job right now, but they're working a
Right.
job as an employee for an
Right.
employer, and they have this dream of, I want to kind of hang my own shingle, and it's going to be a professional services firm.
Right.
We'll take on the same question as it relates to the bakery in
Sure.
a little bit, but for the professional services firm, what
Right.
advice would you have for them?
You've got to get out and network. You've got to be able to spend as much time as necessary meeting people and making sure that you've got a good one-liner. So if you're at a networking event and someone says, oh, what do? You've got to have a really clear one-liner as to what you do, and just keep making connections. And, I try to just meet people, not look at them and say, okay, is Brandon going to spend money with me? Can he even afford me? No, I'm just going to meet Brandon, because if Brandon knows what I do and I know what Brandon does, we might run across people that could use our services. So it's good to just get out there and meet people and network.
So networking kind of is that key, because if your network's good and strong, it's
Yep.
going to make your ramp up quicker.
Right. We do business with people we know, like, and trust. And so that's a good way to be known, liked, and trusted.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to that, to my own experience starting my own practice. It probably took me 5 years to really get it up and running, because
Yep.
my network wasn't really robust.
Right.
I've seen some colleagues hit the same level of success in a year and a half
Yeah.
because they had this great network that they leveraged.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally. Amen. All right. So we've got Ghost Partner, and it's still humming and going, and
12 years old.
yeah, fantastic. Happy
Yeah.
birthday, Ghost Partner.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then we have a new business
Yeah.
that's kind of come into the family.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit about the journey to I Can Eat a Cake.
So Kanita is my wife. of 32 years. And, she started 12 years ago. She made a cake for some friend's kid's birthday, and probably put that on her Facebook page, her personal Facebook page, and said, look, it was a Barbie cake. I don't know what it is. It was something, looked fancy. And that just begat the next customer. Oh, well, if you can do that, can you do this? And then 12 years later, still working out of our home, she's just going crazy with cakes and cookies and all sorts of custom stuff. And finally, the house can't take it. The dogs were very happy, but the house couldn't take it anymore. And it was her long-term dream. It was at that point where it kept growing so much, you either had to back it down or say or take the lid off it and go, we need to find a physical place to do it. So we started looking for a physical place in probably mid-2018, and it was very frustrating because we were going to have to build places out to fit a kitchen and get it zoned, and it was a process that we didn't give up on. We just said, okay, it's not happening. Just lay back and you be faithful and pray about this and see what comes of it. And in December of 18, a restaurant didn't make it, but they'd spent a lot of money to fix up a place to do everything we would have had to do. And so I saw it in the paper, and I contacted the right people, and we rented the space. I don't know that we could have gotten into another space. It was it's perfect. It's in Roswell. So in May of 2019, we opened the doors, May 1st, May Day, and it was crazy. And she's never looked back. She's got 5 staff now. Finding people that can decorate like she can, the iced cookies, has been a blessing because there's no way she can do it all. And so, finding like-minded people that want to use their artistic talent and get paid for it.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So we're approaching the year mark, not quite there.
Yeah, it's very close.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's been meeting all your expectations in terms of demand and people coming and discovering it and repeat business. So, all right. So I know you've probably had a lot of learnings along the way.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to be going to break here pretty soon. I am really ready to dive into one of these, by the way.
Okay. They do look good, don't they?
We're gonna eat and talk in a minute.
Good.
What was maybe your first learning that you had when you started the business?
Oh boy, setting your hours to be the right hours for people, because there's regardless of what days you're going to be closed, there's people that show up at your door going, you're closed on Sundays? Yeah, we need to sleep. We're going to be closed on Sundays. And so and they'll come in, and whereas almost everybody's very happy with what they see there, you'll have people coming and go, oh, you don't do tres leches cake. No, that's like the one thing we don't do is tres leches cake, but it just happens once in a while. And so it's, learning what people like, what people don't like, making too much of one thing. It's been a real learning process.
So maybe the first step in this, and we'll move in a break, but I want to summarize that.
Yeah.
It's kind of identifying, I can't remember the marketing. There's like the 5 Ps, 6 Ps.
Right.
Anyway, one of them is place. You figured that out.
Yeah.
And also place also has to do with how often you're going to be open. And then there's the other one, which is product.
Yeah.
What's my product going to be?
Right.
So then now you're thinking about, okay, what's the products that people really want to buy?
Right.
And so I want to talk a little more about that.
Yep.
It just gives us an excuse to eat.
Yes, absolutely.
When we come back. So let's go to break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about leadership lessons in starting up a business. Hey, this is Brandon with your coaching minute for the week. So one of the tips I give my clients that have direct reports is the following tip. At some point during the year with your direct reports, often about halfway between the annual review process, so at that 6-month mark, at the end of one of your one-on-ones with one of your direct reports, ask the following question or questions. What could I start doing to support you better? What could I stop doing? And what could I continue doing? What could I start doing to support you better? What could I stop doing that's getting in your way? What could I continue doing that's working for you? And what you'll find is they'll come back with valuable feedback for you on ways you can adjust to be a better leader. But you'll also find that each direct report's going to give you a little bit slightly different feedback. It's a great way to make sure you're giving everybody what they need so you're not guessing. So pick that point in time and do it. Now, one more important hygiene tip around this. Make sure you let your direct reports know you're going to ask that question so they can prepare and be ready when it happens. So that's my coaching minute for the week. I look forward to hearing how it goes. Welcome back to the Workplace Therapist Show. Of course, I'm your host, Brandon Smith. So right before our break, Howard Flint has been joining us to talk about the entrepreneur. That's a very strange look on your face, Howard.
I was just waiting for the question, see if it's a good one.
To take us on the journey of starting up a business.
Yes.
And we talked about Ghost Partner.
Yep.
And then now we've been talking about I Can Eat a Cake.
I Can Eat a Cake.
And so we were talking about product and figuring out the right product mix. So you brought some product.
I did bring some product.
So just so everyone knows, so they can go, and again, there's going to be more time to talk about where people can find you.
Sure.
But it's Canita, just like your wife's name. Canita,
Right.
Canita.
Right.
And then cake.
Yes.
I Can Eat a Cake. Okay, so you have a big box here.
I do have a big box.
I'm going to open this up so people can see kind of the logo. Where is it? Right there. There we go. So
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to block your face, which is actually better.
Yes, that's probably,
So
the logo is much,
There
yes.
it is, right there.
I am a different shade of green.
So what do you have here, and what have you found to be good bestsellers?
Lots of good stuff. So one of the big things is, here, pick up a cake bite. You can pick up an interesting looking one like the
Now remember, we are on a podcast, so people can't see. You have to be very descriptive.
Okay.
Don't say we have lots of interesting
This
things
is
here. You
this
have
is
to say-
incredible here.
Yes.
That's
Yeah, that's not helpful for people listening.
So
I just picked up a cake bite.
So for example, the cake bite. Can I give you the origin story of the cake bite?
Yes.
Okay. So when you make a cake that you're going to decorate and put things all over.
I'm not going to keep holding. I'm taking.
No, take a bite of that one. You have to slice off the top of the cake because it comes out of the oven mounted on top. So we slice it off. And so for years, we would just throw that away because there wasn't a use for it because it's just the top of the cake. And so I always thought that's a waste. My idea was a Ziploc bag full of cake parts and then squeeze icing into it. So fascinating. That wasn't well liked
That
by
sounds
the
disgusting.
Yes. So
The cake bite is delicious, by the way. That idea is horrible.
so what we did.
Wait, and you're an entrepreneur?
But I'm an entrepreneur.
I brought you on my show? That was a
Right.
bad decision.
It was a bad decision, which is why Kanita's in charge, and I'm just the co-owner.
Wow.
And a lesser partner. Maybe that's what it should have been my title. Lesser partner of the big. So once we had staff and the bandwidth to do it, we put Jennifer on it, and she crumbled it up and mixes it in with some buttercream icing and makes the balls out of it, and then she dips it into the candy coating. And so really whatever flavor of cakes we're doing that week, we end up with cake bites. So I think it's a cake pop without the stick that you ultimately just throw away anyway.
Yep.
So we're recycling cake, right? We're upcycling,
You are good for the environment.
and we're saving the stick. So
You're saving trees
we are saving trees
and reducing waste.
and we're reducing waste. Depending on how many cake bites you eat, we may not be, but no.
I knew you were going to
yeah,
do that. I set that up.
Yep. So in addition to this, we've got the cookie sandwiches in here. You can see there's the oatmeal cream sandwich, 2 big oatmeal cookies with buttercream between them.
Jeez.
We've got our pie bars, which we've got this month, is caramel apple.
I love pie. And I love bars.
Well, it's like a pie, but on like a shortbread crust, and we do it in a pan. So we got caramel apple and honey cashew, and I think buttermilk pie bar.
Wow.
This month. So
Well, I just had the one cake bite, and it was like a lemon cake.
it's a lemon. Yeah.
It was so good.
So lemon's one of those flavors that can be polarizing. So there's some people just don't like lemon. So, but the people that do, we can advertise that and people come in. So the lemon cake bites are very good. The cookies and cream one at Christmas. I don't know if you stopped in the bakery, but
did.
we had them done like little snowmen.
Yes.
Yes, and so those were very popular.
I'm
and
doing
so
another cake bite.
The cake bites. So if you go to icaneatacake.com and you see the work that Kanita and her team does, she's mostly famous for decorating iced cookies, like sugar cookies. She does the royal icing. That's what she's like an artist for that, and now we have artists working for us. But these things, these cake bites have become a certifiable hit. People come in, they're like, what have you got for cake bites this month? Ordering ahead of time, can I get 2 dozen for a party?
You also have some cookies, decorated cookies in there, correct?
Right. So for a corporate event this past week, they saw online that we did some Baby Yoda cookies, since Baby Yoda is a cultural phenomenon. And for those of us that are watching it, we know it's not Baby Yoda. We don't know what his name is or her name. Really make a lot of assumptions here about this character. All we know is it is adorable, and so we made cookies out of it so you could eat Baby Yoda.
It was going so well until that last line. You really, you had me and then
Lost it.
just ruined it all
So
on the punchline. Well, hold up the Baby Yoda cake so at least the folks watching
am
it.
I reaching it now?
Yes, go in,
Right.
grab it.
Okay.
And you sound so much better when you get closer to the microphone,
Do I?
Howard.
Okay, there's Baby Yoda. There's a little hand out.
Do you see it? Okay.
Okay, there's Baby Yoda. So there's Baby Yoda.
You can put the cookie down now. All right, so I love this. This is super delicious. I also want to make sure we talk about some of the learnings you had along the way.
Yep.
Because there's going to be folks listening to this that say, gosh, I didn't really want to start a professional services firm, but I've always had a dream of starting up a restaurant or something like this. So you've got, from best I can tell, you've got 2 different kinds of customers. You've got corporate customers, which place orders.
Right.
And then you've got individuals that place orders.
Correct.
And then with the individuals, sometimes they place an order and come in and pick up their order, but sometimes they just show up and buy stuff
Right.
off the counter right there.
Right. So that's the thing Kanita was able to do with opening a location, is to have a retail bakery where Cake Bites could be there every day. We could do cookies, we can do the pie bars, and so anybody can just walk in and buy stuff. And then generally what happens is each side of the business feeds the other side. So the custom people might call us.
Was that a pun?
Yes, I guess it is. I can do better puns later. So people will come in and pick up their custom orders and say, oh, you have a retail bakery. Oh, well, let me buy some cookies here. And then the same thing, they come in to buy cookies, and then they see us working because it's an open air. Again, we got into a place that we didn't design, and so it's all open. So you can walk in, you can see the bakers in the kitchen working, you can see the decorators at the table. So you can come in and see it and say, oh, I can get a unicorn cake. Yes, we do those. So they build each other. So that's I like to talk about the 4 C's: counter, which is the retail; custom, which is the Baby Yoda type cookies and cakes; commercial, which is we've got some places in town that are carrying our product.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so the coffee shop at Roswell United Methodist Church, which I'm stalling because I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's a coffee shop right there on Mimosa Street. She gets our decorated cookies and she carries Cake Bites there. And then we have corporate. So we have big corporate orders. In fact, Kanita just did an order and it shipped to the Slime Queen. Are you familiar with the Slime Queen?
No, not at all.
Okay. Cool people are. Slime.
Why did I have you back again? Is it just taking me this long to
Yes.
forget the pain of the first show?
Absolutely. This is
that what happened?
No, this is what happens with your friends. I assume. So
Slime Queen.
The Slime Queen is a lady on that does the kids slime that you make out of glue and stuff. So she only uses Elmer's glue, and so Elmer's glue has become a big fan of hers, and so she hit 1 million followers on Instagram. And so Elmer's Glue, who through their parent company is a client of ours, of Kanita's, and so she had Kanita, dual brands, Elmer's Glue, had Kanita do a bunch of cookies, Elmer's Glue logo, and 1 million and we shipped them to her on surprise. And so she put it on her Instagram and said, look at these great cookies I've gotten, and the dual people were like tagging Kanita in it. So it's kind of, big things are happening and we're a little player, and it's fun to be a part of these things.
Super cool. And so you ship too?
So we ship too. Even the Baby Yoda cookies, we wrap and ship.
That's another C, I think.
That's just shipping.
I don't know.
Shipping?
I don't know. You got to figure out because
Wait.
that's another way you're getting products.
Right, right.
All right, so you've got great distribution methods.
Yep.
You've got a fantastic product. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, I'm not just saying this.
Yes,
I mean, I
thank you.
could just say this, but I'm really not. It's that good.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't think of a way to make it better. It's so delicious.
Yeah.
So you got those things working?
Yeah.
What are other learnings you had with the business? What are other things you had along the way that, if again, we're thinking about that person
Sure.
that says, "Oh, I want to do this." People
Right.
say, "I make great pasta or a great
Right,
sauce,
right.
and I want to start a business." And Howard and Kenita have done it. I'm sure I could too.
Right. So, borrowing from the Ghost Partner side, we had to get, so you're going to rent a place, you're going to open a door, and you're going to put a sign out there, isn't good enough anymore. You've really got to make sure that your Google My Business page is set up. So if someone sees this funny name and wants to Google it, they get all the right information. They get your hours, they get your location, they get your phone. Making sure that people that are really happy with our great product leave us a review, because we have lots of people that walk in the door and say, "I saw you have great reviews, and so I had to stop in." So that's all the stuff that doesn't take flour and sugar and butter, is you've got to make sure all those pieces and parts work.
And one more thing I don't want to ignore.
Right.
You talked about 12 years Kenita was doing this out of her house.
Yes.
That was 12 years of networking. If we
Absolutely.
go back to your Ghost Partner
Yeah.
example, right? 12
Yeah.
years of building relationships, getting a following.
Yep.
So when the doors opened, there was already a base of customers
Absolutely.
that were ready to go there.
Absolutely. And in terms of Ghost Partner, we work with our clients to make sure they're constantly putting out engaging content. Well, that's all that Kenita does, is create engaging content. Because as soon as you put a Harry Potter unicorn cake on your Instagram page, people are going to notice. And they're going to start talking about it, and they're going to share it with somebody. Or she'll tag the person who ordered the cake, and then that person's friends are going to see it. So, I mean, she's the perfect model for social media on how to build a business. It's harder if you were an insurance agent or something like that, but she's got the perfect business because they're constantly creating beautiful and delicious things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So then there's a couple other elements to any business.
Yep.
So there's, going back to our P's, we have product, promotion, place,
Very good.
pricing. How about pricing? Is that something you guys
Pricing
have
is always
worked
a
on?
challenge.
Yeah.
Because you look around the marketplace and you say, oh, we're a little above them or we're a little below them. And it's also hard when you're an artist and I think you sell your services.
Yeah.
You're saying, well, what's my time worth? Well, that just took me an hour to do. What would I charge for that? And so one of the things that we do at Ghost Partner when we're working with people, and so we're talking about this a lot at I Can Eat a Cake, is what's the value of that? What's the value of you showing up at a party with a Harry Potter unicorn cake and everybody talks about it? You're right.
Yeah.
The value is you're the best host. You know where to find the coolest things. Everybody likes you. They're taking pictures of it and talking about your party, right? It's flour, butter, and sugar and an artist's sense of time. It's the value of you made the party. When you showed up at someone else's party with Baby Yoda cookies, the party stopped and everybody had to talk about that.
I think that is a huge mindset shift.
Yeah.
Because that's even a challenge for me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always thinking in terms of my time.
Right.
But sometimes that's doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, if I'm doing a speaking engagement and there's 15 people there, I price by the hour and it's whatever amount it is. Well, if I'm doing a speaking engagement and all of a sudden there's 15,000 people,
Yeah.
that shouldn't be the same thing.
Right,
Because
you
the
can't take
value
it.
is different because it's 15,000 people, not
Right.
15 people. So, but it's a different mindset for me.
Yeah.
Because I want to think about my time.
Right.
Versus value that you bring.
Right.
Which is both a better way to think about it, but also a harder way to measure.
It's a
How
hard
do
way.
you
Yeah.
measure the value that you bring?
Right.
How do you put a number on, having a memorable birthday that the family will never forget?
Right.
That's
That
a
everybody's so that's difficult, and so you look around the market and you work on that pricing, and once in a while, then you'll get somebody that says, that's too expensive, and that's just how it's going to be sometimes because these are artists, these are expensive people. That's another P that have to come in there and work, and that's Kenita cannot do alone what is happening now at the bakery, right? So she had to multiply herself out, and not just somebody who can mix up a cake. I can mix up a cake, but now somebody who can sit and
I'm not
decorate.
confident that you can mix up.
Oh,
a
I
cake.
can mix up a cake.
Oh, you can.
Really good at it.
You said that really
good at
seriously.
it. No, I'm yes. So, but you have to find artistic people, and they're not cheap.
Yeah. So then that takes us to the other P. I don't think it's one of the marketing P's, but you're exactly right. People.
Right. People.
And so this is also that leadership lesson of going, as any small business, going
Sure.
from working in the business to on the business.
Yeah.
Right. That move.
Right.
Hard to do, but you've got to bring in people that you can trust.
Sure.
How did you guys go about finding people? What was that? Was it like a process, or it just kind of happened organically? You know, people would just show up, or you got introduced to people, and you just kind of happened to find the right people.
I mean, most of them started with ads. You had to run ads, and we really, it's not a needle in a haystack. I would call it a hot dog in a haystack. They're there, but it's not easy to find. And you kiss a lot of frogs. You bring some people in. With this work, you can say...
I'm having a hard time keeping up. We got hot dogs and haystacks, and we got frogs we're kissing. And we're still talking about people?
We're still talking about people.
Okay.
All right. There was a point we were making. Do you remember finding good people?
Finding good people. Ads,
very good.
Frogs, hot
That's
dogs.
right. Exactly. So we cook frogs, and we feed them. So what did you think of the frog bite? Was it good? It's got bits of real frog in it. Cut that part out. Okay. So you interview, and you got to bring people in. We can usually weed people out by saying, send us pictures ahead of time for hiring a decorator. Like, we need to see your portfolio.
Did you ever, and you've done that?
Oh, yeah.
And people send in pictures?
Oh, yeah.
And you've actually weeded people out? You looked at some pictures and you said, oh, no.
Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, it sounds bad because they would send you something if it's portfolio worthy for them. And, you'd say, yeah, that's not going to cut it. I mean, Jennifer who works there, who's fabulous, she didn't even send a resume. She sent a document with a bunch of pictures. And I'm like, that was the perfect resume for us. I don't need to know where you went to school. I mean, I'm going to eventually ask you where have you worked before, but she knew that's what to lead with. And she's like, I've always wanted to work in a bakery. That's what you find is with a job like this, as opposed to, something else where people just show up because they get paid, is people have a passion for doing this.
Yeah.
One of the cookie decorators, Lizzie, like 2 months before we found her, or she found us, she just decided she liked decorating cookies. She'd seen it on TV, and she MacGyvered it at home with like a little baggie with icing in it, and it was good enough. When she sent us pictures, we're like, that has promise. And she's fabulous. She just sits there all day, and she did the Baby Yodas.
Oh, those are really good.
No, she just does fabulous. She's a young lady, and she's like, this is the best job. And also, so as an employer, you're like, well, that's really cool because we really like you too. So it really works out sometimes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you look out into 2020 and 2021, Isaac's playing our music, which means we're wrapping up, which is actually good because this is my last official question.
Okay.
2020, 2021, vision for, we'll hold Ghost Partners aside because that's
fine.
kind of an ongoing
Right.
concern. This one's ramping up.
Yep.
What would you want to see for I Can Eat a Cake? What would you and Kenita want to see for it? What's the picture or the vision?
So our location is a little bit off the beaten path, even though we're on a main street. And so short of going to a really fancy area to pay a lot higher rent, I want to make sure our stuff's in those places. The coffee shops that are paying the higher rent carry our stuff, and that she becomes a brand, and that brand we can take to the next step, extra locations, whatever it is.
Take over the world.
Take over the world.
One cake bite at a time.
Yes.
World peace. This could be. Think about this. If every world leader was you could bring this to a negotiation.
Right.
How could it go wrong?
Well, as I've always told her, unlike a lot of businesses, almost everybody who's a customer of hers, she just makes really happy. Yeah. You just don't get to do that very often. Mm-hmm. Like every time we show up, when we were at the house, I used to deliver this stuff, and you would show up, and everybody was happy to see you. And
that doesn't happen a lot.
To get a business where everybody walks out going, "Wow, this is delicious," or "I was just in here." You just, even though you toil in the background, it's hard, but you make people happy, and not everybody gets to make people happy. We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did have one more final question,
Yes.
actually, before we move to close. final piece of advice for someone who says, I would like to open a bakery or a spaghetti factory
Right.
or whatever it happens to be, but
Right.
some kind of a food-based retail storefront kind of business. Any kind of piece of advice you'd have for them?
So we had no, even though in a previous life, both of us were in food and beverage a long time ago, before kids. So I went out and sought the advice that I knew of I didn't know. So I got a SCORE mentor, which is a free service, and a guy who had run a restaurant and said, how do you do this? What do my numbers need to look like? Before we open, what should we do? Always be asking questions. Always find somebody that knows something you don't. And just always sit at their feet and say, what mistake did you make? What would have saved you a lot of time in your first year? And then just listen and try to do that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
And of course, I always ask this question.
Yes.
Final question I ask all guests.
All right.
What's one life hack you have for us to help us keep our life more free from dysfunction? It could be personal, professional.
For us, it's trying to get as many nights as possible a meal with the kids, so that we sit and obviously you open a bakery. When you stick a bakery in the middle of your house, it becomes your life. And now we're out, and it's still a big part of our life. So try to make sure that that's not always the story, even though there's lots to talk about. That that the kids, they're only there for a while, and so we try to do that as often as possible, where we don't talk about the bakery, and we talk about other stuff.
Yeah, super cool.
Okay.
So if people want to learn more about I Can Eat a Cake or Ghost Partners, where would you like them to go?
So icaneatacake.com. So that's the other thing, and I'm extending probably beyond our time here, but the name
Go.
is, we get a lot of hassle with the name because we have to explain it. And I think if you took this from Branding 101, people would say, oh yeah, don't do a name nobody understands. And obviously it works with her name. It's always worked with her name. But once in a while, we'll get people that come in, and it's wonderful to watch their eyes sort of suddenly focus, and they realize what the name means. And then you say, and back over there, that's Kanita. And then they go, what? There's somebody named. I thought it was just a clever name. Well, it is a clever name. And we were working with somebody the other day, a banker, and she had that focused eye. She came from the middle distance back, and she's like, oh, I get the name. And then she started explaining that to us.
Oh, fantastic. You're educated.
Yeah, it's educated. So she's like, did you know and then the name Kanita, and then that means cake? Yeah. See? We make people happy wherever we go.
Okay. icaneatacake.com.
icaneatacake.com.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yep.
Well, thanks for coming on, Howard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next time you come on, I expect twice as much goodies.
We'll bring the Harry Potter unicorn cake, and we'll just set it right here in the middle, and then you and I with forks.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And it's like an episode of Man vs. Food.
It will. In fact, we won't talk.
We'll just make noises.
No, we'll just we'll just get rid of the mics.
Yeah.
And we'll just sit there and eat cake the whole time.
Riveting show for
Yes.
our listeners.
Absolutely.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you for listening and watching. And of course, for those listening, please review and rate the show. This is how other folks find our show. And if you like more additional resources like this show, you can go to theworkplacetherapist.com, where there's blogs, past shows, articles, the Workplace Happiness Workbook, and many, many more resources there for you to make your working life better and more free from dysfunction. So until our next show, have a great week and an awesome life.